There have been a number of wide receiver prospects that have been generating buzz over the last few weeks. With it being a weaker wide receiver class in the 2023 NFL Draft, some names have risen up draft boards in comparison to where they would normally be in a stronger wide receiver class. This has caused a number of names to rise up boards, one of which is Ole Miss's wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. After a decent season at Ole Miss and showcasing his athletic ability at both the Senior Bowl and Draft Combine, Mingo has been generating buzz, and a lot of so-called experts have been saying they expect him to go higher than the public expects. Today, I'm going to be discussing whether or not I think he's worth the hype he is garnishing. Hey guys, welcome back, and if you guys are new, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new. Leave a comment down below and let me know which prospects you guys want to see me break down next. But without further ado, let's take a closer look at Jonathan Mingo. When watching Jonathan Mingo, the first thing you're going to fall in love with is his size. Standing at 6'2", 220 pounds, Mingo possesses some of the physical traits you look for with a wide receiver. He has good hand size and good strength as well. At the Combine, he did 22 on the bench press, which was one of the highest amongst wide receivers. He also has some explosiveness, which we will get to in a moment. But when looking for the build of a wide receiver, Mingo fits the perfect mold for how a ex-wide receiver should look at the NFL. Mingo's a really good playmaker. Ole Miss was primarily an RPO offense. They ran a lot of run-pass options, quick plays, bubble screens. This team loved to run the ball a lot, but they found ways to get Mingo involved in the offense. They would run him on short bubble screens, short little hook passes, short slants, different things like that, which would allow him to use his 4.46 speed in the open field. That's my favorite time when watching Jonathan Mingo on tape, was when he had the ball in the open field. It was electric. He's a really good runner in space, long strides, and he's pretty elusive in the open field as well. He's good at avoiding contact, breaking tackles, and fighting for extra yardage. This is something I definitely enjoyed watching and I like to see from a guy, and I think he's really versatile offensively. You could line him up in the slot, you could line him up outside, similar to how a certain wide receiver in San Francisco is. I'll get to him in a little bit. Being that Mingo is such a strong wide receiver, he shows a really strong willingness to come down and block the run, and of the wide receivers in this class, he's definitely one of the better run blockers. He uses his strength and long arms to get his hands on the defensive back, and he can neutralize him and eliminate him from the play. I think this leads right into his scheme fit, which I think is a similar RPO system to what Ole Miss had. A team that runs quick plays, quick slants, something that could get him the ball maybe on end around, jet sweeps, different things like that love to run the ball, where we can get him the ball in the open space, but also allow him to block, because I think he could be a really nice addition as a run blocker to your offense. However, there are some glaring weaknesses in Mingo's game that are pretty noteworthy. Mingo struggled with drops throughout his collegiate career. He had a 12.7% drop rate while at Ole Miss, which is not ideal. He let the ball hit his pads, didn't really catch the ball too much with his hands, kind of tried to catch it with his body, let the ball hit his pads, and he drops the ball from time to time, which is an area I definitely would like to see improvement in at the next level. A lot of these receivers in this class have a very similar drop rate to Mingo, so I'm very curious to see how teams value that, but drops have been a concern for Jonathan Mingo. Now, this is one of the most concerning areas for me, and it is his quickness and suddenness to his game, especially when it comes to route running. He's a very smooth player. Smooth route runner, runs very smoothly. That's really the only word I can describe it. But he lacks the quickness when it comes to breaking his routes. Like I mentioned earlier, he was best utilized when he was in the open field and could use his space ahead of him to get more of a start. He doesn't really break routes super quickly. He's not very shifty, twitchy. And Ole Miss, being a primarily RPO offense, we didn't really get to see his full route tree whatsoever. A lot of plays that we didn't get to see him in. Lots of quick plays to get the ball out so quickly. The route running is a bit of concern in both the quickness in which he does it and the types of routes that he was running. And it's very interesting because he tested out very explosively at the Combine. In both the broad jump and the vertical leap, we got to see his explosiveness, but it really doesn't show up on tape. So I'm very curious to see if that's something he's improved upon in the offseason or what that's going to look like. Also, due to his lack of quickness, it makes it hard for him to gain separation. doesn't have any quick moves he can break into, which also makes him fairly unreliable in the deep ball game as well. He's not a super physical wide receiver, so we don't see him going up, bodying guys to get the ball. There's concern about his deep ball game and his ability to get separation, which once again confirms why I think he would work best in a primarily RPO, run-first offense. Coming up with a comp for Mingo was pretty difficult. A lot of people have been throwing around the comparison of former Eagles and Bears wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey. I really like this. Neither were the most sudden athletes, but both had good open field ability and had very similar size and build, so I'm going to go with this as my comp. But I mentioned Deebo Samuel earlier, and this I think could be his ceiling if he falls into the right system. Deebo Samuel has been thrown around due to the versatility. You can line Samuel up anywhere on the field, electric in the open field as well, and he can be used in the run game, different things like that. It's a little bit too lofty. I'm not ready to give him that title obviously yet, but I think there are shades of Deebo Samuel in Jonathan Mingo's game. Mingo is a polarizing prospect. There are some pretty glaring weaknesses in his game. However, there's some real upside and raw potential due to the athletic profile of Mingo, which makes this a really tough pick. Ultimately, I'm going to go in and buy into the reports. I think he is going to be selected higher than people think. And I think in the right scheme, he could be a very good NFL player. It's all about scheme with him. He is very raw. He needs to fall into the right situation, or else I think he could end up being just another guy. But I think Jonathan Mingo will be selected in the top 75 of the 2023 NFL Draft.